So Sonic Boom on the Wii U came out, and not a lot of good things were said. But what do I think of the game myself? Guess that's why you're here. So this is my review of Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyrics, released on Nintendo Wii U. Alright, so when the trailer for Sonic Boom came out, I was actually pretty excited to go and see what they could do with this title. Optimistic, if you can say. After the first trailer came on, I remember it was a really long time until we got like another trailer to go and excite other people up. So my hype for the game really did die down. And when the game was actually approaching its release, I saw a lot of screenshots on Twitter being like, oh, the game looks bad, it looks like a PS2 game and just glitchy areas within the game. And I actually did buy it on release day because I was actually skeptical and I wanted to go and see what the drama was about. So the story for Sonic Boom stars our four heroes, Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles. They have to go and stop this new villain named Lyric because he's going to get these crystals to go and destroy the world or something. I honestly didn't pay attention to the story that much because it was really boring and just bland in general. The story wasn't exciting to me, so I really just, when a cutscene went on, I just looked at the visuals to go and see how bad the graphics were. And time travel is a factor within the story itself, so when you know time travel is involved, it's not exactly going to be all that great. Other characters like Eggman, Shadow, and Metal Sonic are within the game, but they don't exactly do much within the story per se. Eggman is there to be Eggman, you know, trying to stop Sonic's plans, but when the new villain Lyrics come in, you'll see what happens to Eggman. And Metal Sonic is by Eggman's side most of the time. Shadow doesn't even get much screen time within the game. I think he gets like 5, 10, 20 minutes max within the entire game. And there is a new character named Styx, but she's not exactly involved within the story that much. She is involved within the 3DS version a lot more, and I think she is in the new cartoon series as well, which I hear the cartoon series is actually really good. So I honestly think that Styx should have been more utilized within this game, within the Wii U game. But I guess she now takes a bigger role within the 3DS game and the cartoon show. So the story overall is just a train wreck with characters shouting corny one-liners all the time. They're either pointing out the obvious or shouting something about rings and bounce pads or... God, I know this game was made for kids, but honestly, I didn't really need the main characters shouting rings, rings, bounce pad, like every 5 seconds. And the dialogue itself within the game, I think it's alright, you know, on how like the characters interact with each other within the cutscenes and stuff. I think it's alright, but overall, just the new villain Lyric isn't exactly all that intimidating either. The story overall is just a mess. Okay, let's get into the gameplay. The gameplay for this game, you obviously play as our four heroes, Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, and they all quote-unquote have their unique powers within combat. But in the end, you're just mashing X and Y until the enemies die, and they actually take forever to die. And I like using characters like Tails or Sonic when I'm fighting, because Tails actually uses bombs when he fights, so it's easier to go and take enemies out from a long distance, and I just like playing Sonic. I really don't use Amy or Knuckles when fighting because Knuckles feels a bit too slow for me, even though he is the powerhouse. And Amy uses her hammer to fight, which is actually making her really slow. Like, her animations when she fights are like really slow. So she just takes a long time to fight. And the combat itself is really bland and boring because all you're doing is spamming X and Y until the enemies die. And there are a lot of enemies on the screen at once. So like sometimes you'll be like punching a guy and then like another person will come in and just punch you in the face because you're literally just spamming X and Y. You can only do like 2 combos, I think. So really the combat's just dumb, and even Sonic Unleashed has a much more expansive combat system with the Werehog. Now, with our heroes themselves having their unique powers, you could go and use them to go and explore the really boring and ugly world. Sonic has a spin dash, but it doesn't really travel that far. And Tails has this pathetic flight ability that doesn't really go that high or long distance. Knuckles can climb these specific walls, and Amy has this triple jump, and she can also jump on specific poles and areas, I guess. And Amy is probably the best to go and explore with because of her triple jump. And since everyone runs at, like, I believe, like, the same speed, you can't even run within these hub worlds. So, really, you're just running around these, like, bleak and desolate areas with, like, nothing to do other than side quests. And the side quests aren't even all that great because all you get is a lame power-up, which you don't even really notice when fighting. And Yeah, and the only time I use like the other characters to like explore is when I'm really forced to, like when I have to use Knuckles to go and like jump a Pacific wall. But like sometimes if the wall's like short enough, you could even use Amy because she has her triple jump and that's like really OP and broken, I think. And you probably don't even want to go and explore the world anyways because it just graphically looks bad. Some of the textures are really low res and there's nothing really interesting to do within these hub worlds. I just feel like that these hub worlds get in the way of advancing into the next part of the game. And there are these really fast-paced sections, sort of like the Mach Speed sections within Sonic 06, and they kind of remind you that you are playing a Sonic game, but at the same time you're just playing a mediocre action-adventure game. And the problem with these Mach Speed sections, I will call them, is that the frame rate goes to absolute garbage when you go into them, and it is really noticeable when you go through loops and turns and stuff like that because the frame rate's just chugging along trying to go and keep up with Sonic. And they even put obstacles in your way, and it's really hard to dodge them, especially since the frame rate keeps dropping. So, also, there are, like, no invincibility frames, I believe. So, like, when you get hit, you could immediately get hit after, and you'll just lose more rings. And the rings act as your health, so you'll basically be dying within, like, mere seconds. And each time you get hit, I believe, you lose, like, 10 rings or so. And it's hard to go and not get hit a lot because there's like enemies everywhere and stuff, so you could basically die in like mere seconds. Also, when you get hit, it's actually really hard to go and get your rings back since they scatter so far, so quickly, and disappear so quickly as well. Also, when the hitboxes are like really weird, I think, because in the Metal Sonic boss fight that you face, obviously, since Metal Sonic's in the game, you obviously have to face him. There are these 3 lanes you could go into. If he shoots from the left one, what's the thing you're probably going to do is either going to move to the middle one or the right one. If you move to the middle one, you'll actually die, and that's really frustrating because as myself, I'm like, oh, you know, I'll just go to the left or the right or whatever, and I'll just, you know, be safe. Nope, you get hit and then you die. Then you have to somehow go back to where you were. Hopefully you now know that to go all the way to the right now when he's shooting from the left so he doesn't hit you. Like, you might as well just only put 2 lanes then. So, and the graphics themselves are just so bad. Like, the graphics are like nothing special. Many people are comparing this game to a PS2 game, which is really understandable because the game just looks that bad. And the Wii U does have the potential of making games look amazing, like Pikmin 3, Super Mario 3D World, and Bayonetta 2, just to name a few. And the multiplayer for the game itself, I hear is just not exactly that great either, because once you activate multiplayer in single player mode, the graphics look worse, and the frame rate drops even further. And the first player is actually locked onto the gamepad, which is really sad because I was actually pretty excited to go and play the game with the Pro Controller. And then when I was pressing plus, I was like, why isn't the game starting? And then I walk up, pressing on the gamepad, I was like, oh, now I have to play with the gamepad. Like, I want to play with the Pro Controller because, you know, I bought it so I could play games with it, but you know, some game developers insist on the first player forcing to use the gamepad, which I think is because there's like a mechanic within the game, because there's like a little Sonic icon on the gamepad eventually once you get like far enough within the game. If you hit that icon, you could actually look around for like secrets and stuff to go and advance even further, which is honestly not exactly all that special because most of the time those like hidden areas, quote unquote, have like cracks in the wall and stuff. So like any like normal video game player would just be like, oh, there's a crack in the wall, I think this could be broken or something like that. So yeah, the gameplay overall is just boring with no redeeming factors whatsoever. The combat being very like bland and boring. The platforming not exactly being that great, and the quote-unquote puzzles are just really you pushing buttons or walking on certain platforms or whatever. And there's no replay value whatsoever, I find, because the collectibles themselves aren't exactly all that special. There's like these glyphs that you can go and find, and they'll basically help you with the combat, like give you like extra combat stats, but I honestly don't really notice them whatsoever. So really, like I said earlier, combat, spamming X and Y until the enemy dies. And the presentation overall, like I said earlier, the graphics are really bland and boring, and the frame rate is just really poor. And the soundtrack itself is not exactly all that memorable. I know that Sonic games are really, you know, remembered for their soundtrack, but this game is not one of those games. And I feel like this game was totally rushed out for this holiday season. And if this game was, you know, delayed until like 2015 a little bit further, this game probably would have been a little bit better, you know, at best an okay game. This game is just bad. Not as bad as Sonic 06 I find, but it's still a terrible Sonic game. Since I honestly didn't run into as many glitches as, you know, a lot of people did. You know, some people like falling through walls, you know, I saw the Knuckles glitch where you like infinitely jump and like pass through walls and like beat the game within like an hour or something like that. Like, that's just crazy. This game is definitely glitchy, and a lot of people were saying that the game was bad before I even put the game within the system. So my expectations for this game were exactly all that high to begin with, so definitely not recommended this game. Totally not worth $50, or even the time to go and takes to go and finish this game. So you could honestly just pass the game and you wouldn't be missing much. So I think that's all I have for today. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys haven't already, subscribe. New videos up every Saturday. Drop a like, do and share your support out for Facebook and Twitter for my future videos. My very own Let's Play channel where I play games. And I also have a playlist of game reviews. So if you want to check out my other game reviews I've done in the past, check out that playlist. So, and those will all be in the description below. So that's about it. Thank you guys for watching this video again. I'll see you guys next time with maybe the review of the 3DS version. So I'll see you guys then. Game on, gamers.